Shabalala! James! Oh, what a goal! Montiel al arco!
Welcome to Touchline Talks. No tactics, no filters, just soccer and some hooligans.
All right, welcome back to Touchline Talks with us, the 90th Minute Hooligans. Thanks again for joining us for yet another episode here on today's show. I know right now you can't see him, but we've got, of course, Lucas, we've got Jay, and we've got a very, very special guest, as you can see, Marco Patrie. Marco, how you feeling, my man?
Great, happy to be here.
Welcome to the show. We're really excited to have you in the show, and we're gonna jump into it in just a second for all the viewers at home. But all the viewers at home, just so I can catch you guys up. Last couple episodes, we really dove into a lot of information about the World Cup draw, the bracket, the group stages, how people make points, how they move forward. We're going to switch up a few things up this week as we turn to our first special guest to the podcast. Again, for all you viewers at home, we really, really appreciate you joining us and watching in and supporting in any way, shape, or form. And we really appreciate who we have on the show today. As we said before, we have Marco Patrie on the show here. Somebody who's a little bit more behind the scenes. We talk about as much as we love soccer and as much as we want the World Cup to be great. But this is somebody who's kind of working with it on a day-to-day basis. His official title being the Premium Sales Manager for On Location FIFA World Cup 2026. Did I get that right, Marco?
You nailed it. And I didn't realize I was the first guest. So a ton of pressure, man. I'm honored to be here.
Nah, man, no pressure. We like to have fun. At the end of the day, our motto is culture, chaos, and soccer. So if there's a little bit of chaos, it's all good. We're going to culture everybody at home. And of course, at the end of the day, we're going to talk about soccer. We're going to talk about the World Cup 2026, as this is the road to FIFA World Cup 2026. Look, we're going to get right into it, Marco. And for us here and for all the viewers at home, give us the short version. Who are you? And where did your soccer journey begin to where it is now?
Yeah, I think all of us are very similar, where football, soccer is a cornerstone of our lives. I actually grew up playing in Atlanta, Georgia, playing with and competing with Jay. I don't know where he is on the screen for me. He's on that side. But finished my college career, went and chased the dream over in Denmark. I climbed the ladder over there up into the first division over in the Danish leagues. Broke my back, came back to Atlanta, where I was born and raised, just in time for the MLS team to get started. Helped pick their first class of, academy. And then from there, went into the front office and did their sales for a whole bunch of years until FIFA and the World Cup On Location came and poached me for this project.
Poached you. They saw how great you were, and they said, hey, got to take the guy.
I like to think that they recognize talent.
So you talked about it, right? You played the game at a high level. For you, what did soccer mean for you? Because again, a lot of these episodes we talked about is about how much soccer meant to us and why we're so into it. So for you, growing up, playing it, like you said, in Atlanta, playing with and against Jay, playing at the next level, what did soccer mean for you in your playing days?
So I don't know if Jay remembers, but I was a really, really small kid, and I am multiracial, half Asian, born and raised in the rural American South in Atlanta as well. So soccer was the place where I could have my competitive outlet, because it doesn't really matter how big or strong you are or fast you are. If you have skills, if you have the brain, you can compete. But also it was the place where I fit in the most because of all of those things. It was home for me. It was the place where I had my own family, my own team. I mean, I'm lucky that I had those experiences, because it's taught me every single probably life lesson that I have today. I mean, I see the world through the lens of a soccer player and being on the field. Every single thing that I do, I probably think about how it relates to something that I did on the field at one point or another.
100%. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, right? About that transition for us playing at a competitive level and being able to transition into careers we have now. A lot of it is because we see life through competition almost, right?
Oh yeah. I think that, I'm in the sales world now, and it is one of the few places in, I guess, the business world where you are measured by how hard you work, what you're able to produce. And I think that I really value that. So absolutely, yes.
Absolutely. I love it. And look, you said you played in the Danish league. You worked your way up. Tell us about what was it like playing in the Danish league, and what were the fans like in your
Oh
experience?
man. So Jay might also remember this. I was not the strongest or the fastest player. I was pretty clever, but my passing game was really good. In Denmark, they're all Vikings and they're giant people. So I know Lucas is pretty tall from what I've heard. I would say 6'4" is like the average height of those Valkyries and Vikings in Denmark. So for some reason or somehow or another, I became a fast player, which was really kind of crazy. Also, everyone in Denmark speaks pretty perfect English, but my game has classically been in the midfield. I like to pull strings. I like to, again, pass master here and there. But because I couldn't speak Danish, they were just like, hey, man, go play on the wing, go play outside back. Got pretty low responsibilities. Um, my favorite story that I like to tell is, you have like game day, you come into the clubhouse early and you go and eat in the restaurant and then you go do team talks and you watch film and all this stuff. Well, everything is in Danish. So I just zone out for like an hour while they're going through tactics and here's the other team and then they just be like, Marco, I'm like, yeah, hey, on the corner, you stand here. I'd be like, okay, right on. Number 9, this is your man. Like, okay, cool. Zone out again for another 45 minutes until it's time to warm up, see everybody getting their stuff on and go and, play the match. But the Danish fans, awesome. They are quirky, dark humor people. And, if you're working hard and you're sacrificing, they love you. They also love Americans, which was something that I wasn't familiar with in Europe. So if you ever have a chance, go to Denmark. Shout out Freetown, Christiania. Yeah, fantastic country if you ever have some time to travel around.
That's awesome, man. And I gotta ask. I mean, when you're playing at that level, and I don't know much about the Danish league. I'll be honest, but I mean the crowds and the environment and the culture. We talk about it a lot in the podcast recently about how the U.S. is still catching up to that. Did you feel that being in Denmark, just from those people?
It is a smaller country, and even then, the football was such a big part of the community that it did feel very different. Um, I did a little bit of time with Atlanta Silverbacks, and Denmark was weird because there would be stadiums that were kind of small that fit maybe, I don't know, 5,000 people. And then you'd go see teams like Newland or FC Cope that are just massive with the tifos and all that kind of crazy stuff. And there was a very big disparity in the league because in a tiny country like that, there are so many teams. And with promotion relegation, that doesn't really exist here. You'll have these smaller teams. Like Luton is a great example in England. They get promoted and they got to go play in these ginormous, Premier League stadiums. And when people come to play against them, they're in the middle of a, tiny stadium too. So it was an awesome experience. But I think the biggest difference is like the community is so connected to the team.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing. That's amazing. We love to hear that. And at what point in time did you kind of realize for you that you talked about you broke your back, you came back to the States. What was that transition like for you going from playing professional soccer to now being more behind the scenes?
I think that the I mean, it was probably one of the hardest things that you ever are going to have to do. And I'm sure all of you guys, feel this to some capacity, but the identity shift of my whole entire life. I am a player. I value myself on how well I can ping a ball, how many assists I have, or, my passing percentage or all of those things. And all of a sudden having to shift your own personal mentality. Um, and everyone's different, but for me, I really saw myself as a player, and having that identity shift was just so difficult. I mean, like, plus not being able to run, and we exercise probably 6 hours a day, and to go from that to zero, is just super depressing and not fun at all. And my team actually sent me to London, and it rained the entire time for like my rehab, and it was just terrible. But uh, it also is a reminder that everything happens for a reason, because at that exact moment, if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't have had the experience of helping bring a professional team to my hometown. And I think that the legacy that I got to be a part of, right? Because it's all teamwork. I mean, a small cog in the giant machine, um, is much more meaningful than any number of goals or assists that I could have or tackles that I might have won on the field. So, uh, yeah, there's light at the end of the tunnel for all of you athletes out there if you are, coming to the end of your career or experiencing injuries.
I also think that like whenever you're an athlete, you bring that competitiveness into the workplace. So you always want to be better at what you do. Like you always want to get to the next level of your job or like in anything. So that's a good thing as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And look, you've from a perspective of being on the field and being in front of fans and having that feeling of like, you're playing towards something, you're playing for something, to now being able to help people with experiences, kind of how you dreamed of it as a player, now you get to help people in a sense. So tell us a little bit about what your title allows you to do, and tell us about what your transition into helping Atlanta United in their inaugural season to where they got, and your transition to where you are now.
Yeah, my job is pretty simple. I put butts into seats. That's my role. My skill is trying to figure out what is the best fit for everybody, because it's not always that the most expensive option is the one that is the right one for you. Um, and it's also, I have the experience of being connected to the fans and the crowd. I've been on the corporate side of things too, helping people identify what they really care about, because not everybody does know. And I think that sport, soccer is one of those. I think it's the biggest one, and I'll selfishly say that it's the best one too. But sport is something that galvanizes society. It brings people together of all kinds of backgrounds. Here we are on this call, guys from all over the world with different languages, sharing a religion or a passion or a language of football. And I think that being able to introduce people to that is probably a purpose or a calling for me.
Love that. I love that. And look, the reason you got brought together with us, I'm gonna put somebody else on here a little bit, is Jay, right? So Jay, tell me a little bit about your relationship with this guy, right? How that came about for us to be to this point where we have him on the show.
Yeah, man. I mean, we go way back, right? Like he was saying, we played against each other and with each other. We had that great opportunity to play for the same club. And then growing up also, we played against each other when it came to like Sunday leagues. And then we had a good friend, Cole, Cole Priest. We were all friends too, so we came together. But yeah, and then also later in life, when he started with Atlanta United, he told me, hey, this is funny. We were actually in Colt's pool, and he told me, "Yo, dude, I'm selling, tickets and also suites." And at that point, I told him, I was like, "Oh, dude, I've always wanted a suite. I want to be able to, experience that. The thing is, now that I'm bigger, I don't want to fit in the medium, the lower seats or get closer. I need my space. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to sit, chill, watch the game, relax, and everything." So he's like, "I can hook it up," and he did it. I think it was a year later. I was like, "I think I'm ready," and then he really hooked it up. He was like, "Hey, this is," and I told him I was like, "Look, I want this as a personal and business standpoint." So he gave me the full breakdown, the good part, what the worst case scenario. But he hooked it up, and now we have a suite. And then not only that, he gave me the insight of, hey, you can actually own or be a part of a bigger suite with other suite owners. So he did that as well. So we actually have one of the biggest suites in Atlanta United or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and he brought us all together too. But I mean, one of my favorite experiences just playing with this guy on the field, right? We even we played on one of the finals for, what was it, Pumas, right? And me and him
Yeah.
actually got to play together there, and that was pretty cool. So
I
yeah,
think
I've known
Jay
this.
is being Jay's being way too modest. He was much better than I was when we were younger. He was on the team above mine too, and they just beat up on us every time that we played against them. So, Jay is just sugarcoating everything. Don't sleep on
Nah.
this guy.
No,
He's a pacey winger. I'll never forget the first time I played against him. Yeah, I know you remember this too because we talked about it. It was like first play of the game. Oh, they're the team above us. We've been, getting mentally ready for them because if we win, it's going to be a statement. And they played him down the line. Jay came up, dummied the ball, went right through our right back's legs, and he was just off to the races. And we were just sitting there like, whoa, there's levels to this shit. So, oh yeah, I remember that.
I remember.
That's funny. That's hilarious. And hey, Marco, I appreciate it because I've gotten a chance to be at that suite.
Hey,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
will say I appreciate it. I went when I got a chance to watch Inter Miami play Atlanta,
nice.
last year. So,
I'm next in line.
yeah. So I appreciate it. And look, I mean, now with working with Atlanta United and to go from that to now getting poached from FIFA, right? So right now your goal, tell the viewers and us, what's your goal right now with the World Cup and your focus?
Yeah, so I am mostly responsible for suites boxes for the World Cup. I would say there's a little bit more of a corporate shading on what I do, but I am also responsible for all 5 different levels of club tickets that are offered by On Location and FIFA for this World Cup. So essentially, my big main goal is to get as many people to this monumental tournament as possible. Just because they're making it the biggest one ever, I think we can also make the biggest impact culturally. So, there's like the salesperson version of Marco that is the corporate version. There's still that little boy that played soccer in the streets. The altruistic version of me really wants the United States as a whole and the North America as a whole kind of shift in culture because we're seeing soccer on the rise already. And if we do this thing right, man, it's going to take off in a way that I don't think most people are expecting or ready for.
And a lot of our podcast has been really surrounded that, right? Is the cultural impact. I mean, that's our goal here is to get as many people to the World Cup as possible and get people to watch and to feel it and to understand what it feels like. I know for Lucas and for Jade, we don't get that same feeling as players anymore. But as fans, we can relive that feeling of what it was to play in front of people, what it was to score a goal. And we want more people to get that feeling. So for viewers to hear it from somebody else other than the 90th minute hooligans, it shows that, hey, this is real. This is indeed going to be the biggest, best World Cup that we've ever seen. But I'm gonna turn it a little bit because one of the things, right, at the end of the day is we're talking about how incredible this is going to be, but when it comes to tickets, it's been a topic of discussion. And Lucas, when we, I got a chance to go to the World Cup in 2014 in Brazil. I stayed with Lucas. I felt like I lived like a local there, thanks to him. If it wasn't for Lucas, I'd probably be lost because Lucas was the one who got the tickets and he had them ready. Lucas, can you kind of talk about what your process was getting those tickets for the World Cup back in 2014, when we got a chance to experience it in Brazil?
Yeah, I think it is the same way as it works now. I don't remember for sure if I had to bid for the ticket. Like you put in like I want to go to that game, and then I think they do it. I don't know what's the process, if they draw it out or what's the process. And then I got a few tickets for some of the games I wanted to go to. Then I didn't get tickets for some of the games I also wanted to go to. But I think that's
Lucas,
how I think
what
I
was
think that's
the
how
what was the best game that you got to see at that 2014 World Cup?
I think we go to I think we went to Argentina against Iran. So to see Messi was a nice game. So he scored like in the last minute. He scored a goal. We got to see Belgium. We got to see who else?
We saw the England versus Costa
Yeah,
Rica game,
England and
but
Costa Rica
it
as
ended up
well.
0-0. So
0-0,
yeah,
yeah.
it ended 0-0. Yeah,
For
but the
example,
other
I
one
bid
was
for
good.
we had the Brazil and Germany was actually in my city, so I didn't go to that game because we were in Rio, but I put on a bid to go to that game, but I didn't get the tickets. I don't know how the process is, if it's the same way nowadays. I don't know.
Probably a blessing in disguise that you didn't make it to that one
Yeah.
specifically. Although, if you're a German, I'm sure you'd like to have been there. No, I think, the question sounds like, is this process getting tickets similar to how it was in the past? And I don't know. I think all of the World Cups are a little bit different, but I can confidently say there's three ways to get tickets for this World Cup. You highlighted the first way, which is the lottery system. If you go on FIFA's website, there's different windows where you can open up, you register your interest. It's free to register. If you get selected for the lottery system, you can purchase tickets that are going to be all different kinds of categories in the stadium. So I think there's 4 or 5 different categories. That is directly on FIFA's website. The second option would be the hospitality options. That's the only way where right now you can point to a game and purchase it from FIFA directly. Hospitality means anything that is the nicer areas of the stadium. So, lower level, second level, right at midfield, even lower level in the corner sections behind the goals. But the thing that FIFA prides itself on, the organization in their tournament, is they put on the greatest show of all time. The hospitality is reflected in that too. So if you like to have hospitality, you get hours of food and beverage before and after that is measured and tailored to that city or the teams that are playing specifically, and then much nicer experiences that you would get in the stadium than any other event that would come through there. So whichever of the 16 stadiums, they're going to dress them up completely and change them entirely. So I know that that's a cool topic. It's very similar to the Super Bowl. They'll strip off all of the logos and rebrand them as a FIFA stadium. The last way to get tickets would be FIFA's marketplace. So anyone who purchases after winning the lottery can resell their tickets on FIFA's marketplace directly. You cannot resell hospitality tickets because they're already priced pretty high because of all of the things that you get with them. But if I win the lottery and I don't have the game that I want, I can sell the ticket online. You might find some good deals on there, but again, you're purchasing from someone who won the lottery system. I feel like covered a couple different bases there.
I also have a question because I remember at that time I had to go to get the ticket, a physical ticket. I don't know if it's because we didn't have like a lot of cell phones at the time, but if it's gonna be online or if it's gonna be a physical ticket as well.
And this is my speculation. It's all going to be electronic. I think it's because the whole world has gone green, and the idea of printing out, and killing thousands and thousands of trees for an event, and people probably save their World Cup tickets more than most of these other matches that are happening. But FIFA will have their own app for the tournament. Everything will get loaded onto the app, so you'll get barcodes going to the stadium that way.
Oh, nice.
And to go back on it, we talk about the tickets, and do we feel like, I mean, this would we agree that the ticketing system for FIFA is pretty complex? Because when I think about it, right, it's only January and we've already gone through 3 phases of tickets, right? So we had the Visa pre-sale, which was in when was that, in September?
September, yeah.
And then we had the early ticket draw, which was in October, and then the random selection that just concluded in this last week, the 13th. And I applied for all of them for sure, and I'm looking for them. And the first 2 I didn't get any. We'll see what happens. I mean, I had my mom, all my family members bid for Mexico because my family, we have a ranch in Mexico, about an hour and a half outside of Mexico City. We have an apartment in Mexico City, and I wanted this to be. I'm like, I need to see that first game. I need to watch Mexico, South Africa in Estadio Azteca, and we're just right now we have about like $18,000 up for grabs in tickets because we're just like, hey, we're willing to pay it. Do we want to pay that much? Not really, but this goes back to the complexity behind it. I mean, is there a reason that we feel like FIFA has such a complex? Is it because it's the most viewed event in the world? Is that why it's so complex?
I can speculate, but it is complex. And if it wasn't, Marco wouldn't have a job. But I am in the same boat as you, Luis. I handle more the hospitality side, but for every single one of these pre-sale windows, I used my email address, my second email address, my wife's email address, and my dad's email address. He's for every single one of them, and I did not win the lottery one time. So I know people are winning them because I see it online, and I had a friend in Seattle actually win, and he gave me his login, and I went in and purchased the tickets that I could. I got like 1 or 2 games here in Atlanta, and he got a whole bunch on the West Coast. But yes, I think the nuances and why it's so different is because this is the first World Cup ever in history that's taken place in 3 different countries, 16 different cities. It is a lot of coordination, a lot of standardizing the process across the board. But I know FIFA has purposefully made the lottery system the way that they did so more people could have access to tickets and not um, just, I see it on Ticketmaster all the time when there's a big Taylor Swift event or a Beyonce concert that people will create bots and they'll just purchase everything and then all of a sudden the price goes up. FIFA does this the way that they do to protect that from happening so that more fans who are actual fans can hopefully win the lottery and go to these matches.
Yeah, I love that because that was going to be one of my questions as well. Is does it take away from the true fan? Because the other part of it is the money side of it. And yeah, I was watching the news this morning, and it was showing a huge supporter of England who she had already bought plane flights. She already bought an RV to travel across the U.S. But now her biggest fear is how much she's going to have to pay for these tickets because when I looked at it, the average tickets for the group stages in Qatar were, $10 to $70 if you're a resident there, and they were going prices up to $220. And when I'm looking at these tickets, when I was looking at the draw or me pulling in for certain tickets, I mean, I'm looking at tickets for $700, $800, $900. I mean, and even the first match that we applied for over $1,000 a ticket. How do we feel like, I mean, people are responding to that, and do we feel like it's taking away, or do we feel like it's people are just going to pay the money because it is what it is?
I think that it is a kind of a unique, perfect storm of different factors is causing this. You mentioned Qatar. The one before that was in Russia. Before that was in Brazil and South Africa. South Africa is the one I would have loved to go to probably the most. But compared to a place like New York City or Dallas or Mexico City or LA, these places are so much more accessible to everyone in the world than trying to get a plane flight and trying to schedule a trip to South Africa or Qatar. Every single company and individual in all of Asia can get to the West Coast in a direct flight to Seattle or to LA. All of South America can go to Mexico City or Dallas in a direct flight too. And I mean, if you're talking about Africa, Europe, New York, Atlanta, Miami, those are pretty amazing destinations. But again, direct flights. So instead of competing with people who are local and crazy soccer fans who will travel at any cost to get to South Africa, to get to Brazil, there's a lot more curious fans, which I think is good for the culture in the United States, who say, hey, I've heard about the World Cup my whole entire life. It's finally here. It's one plane flight away, or I can drive to one of these stadiums. So instead of competing with hundreds of people or thousands of people, we are millions and hundreds of millions of people that are curious and want to go to the World Cup. So I think that the demand is really what's dictating the price more than anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense because and I guess for the US, do we feel then that that's why we're going to get so much traction afterwards and during, because the amount of people who are more curious now, because right, the last time that the World Cup was in the US was of course in 94, and now we're expecting, I'm guessing, record demand because of how much it's grown since then, right?
So I will ask you guys, how many of you guys know Lucas, Jay, someone who is absolutely cracked at FIFA, the video game, but has never touched a soccer ball before,
I know a few.
right? I mean, like they catch the fever, and now all of a sudden they start talking about players, and they start watching football on the weekends. That usually starts right after the World Cup happens, and maybe they can't kick a ball to save their lives, or they don't know how to survive in Rondo, but that peak of interest and swell is going to catch after this because people have been talking about it for years now. The MLS, the local leagues are getting bigger and bigger. I think the world is getting a little bit smaller too. And those same guys are preaching just like we are. And I mean, we're fanatics, but they are, you know, evangelists in the same kind of way that will be bringing people who have never seen a football match ever before. And they're going to get playing FIFA or whatever it's called nowadays. I don't think it's called FIFA anymore. But they're going to be playing on Xbox and PlayStation with each other as soon as it finishes. And they're going to be introducing their kids to the sport as well. So I do expect more people who have never watched a game before to go to at least one of these matches or be invited to one of these matches or to just watch it on TV because it's going to be everywhere. And I know, again, it is kind of a perfect storm for this cultural moment in the US.
I love it. And I guess from the inside, and I'm going to get deeper into this premium ticketing in a second for sure, because I do want to know more about that. But from the inside, from FIFA standpoint, and I know you're not FIFA, but I'm sure you've heard, because when we were in Brazil, the big thing that we enjoyed when we didn't have a game we could go to was the FIFA Fan Fest. You know, being able to do that. Have we heard that that's going to be? Because I've seen some things where they say they're going to be. Some people say they're going to charge. Some say they're not. Is it something that they're going to do that's going to be widely spread? Like, is there anything you've heard?
You know, I am not the, I guess, deciding factor on this, but I would be very surprised if the Fan Fest wasn't part of the World Cup because it is such a draw and a staple experience for every single previous tournament. Um, how accessible it's going to be, I think, will also depend on the stadium's configurations because some stadiums are going to have a lot more room, others will not. I know some stadiums are much smaller than other ones in this tournament, but uh, just like the Champions League has a fan fest. I'm only speculating, but I fully expect like that's what you think of when you think of the World Cup. It's meeting those people outside the stadium. It's going and seeing those Brazilian fans in the full sea of yellow and reminiscing on the older generations from when we used to watch Cafu play, all the way to talking trash about whoever the striker of Real Madrid is right now and where they're speculating where they're going to go and those kind of things. So like, I think that is a big part of the experience for, the average fan. That's what the heart of the World Cup is about.
I agree. I think like whenever I think of the World Cup, I think of the FIFA Fan Fest here. So it was a really nice experience. We got to meet people from all over the world that were visiting. So I don't think they're gonna leave that out.
No, and I hope that they capture it the right way because I think that's a big piece, and when there are so many new impressions that are happening at this World Cup, I think making sure that it is exactly that spirited, camaraderie. It doesn't matter what part of the world that you're coming from. There's not really like the same kind of intense bad blood between fans that you would see in some of those other major tournaments because everyone's happy to be there. It doesn't matter if you came all the way from Japan and you're cheering for your country. If we're playing against each other, there is this huge respect from the fans that, we travel all over the world to celebrate football and to speak the same religion, the same way that we're doing it right now. And, the love of the game transcends where you come from, and I think that has to be a staple and captured in that fan area.
Yeah, 100%. I think the cultural side of it, again, our whole motto here is culture, chaos, and soccer. And culture is a huge part. And look, we're all from different walks of life. Kaylon and Harvey, who unfortunately we don't have on the call. Maybe they'll jump on here in a second. But them being from Jamaica, my background being Mexican Chilean, Jay's being Mexican American, and Lucas being from Brazil, and our teammates and teammates that you've played with your whole life. I mean, culture and being from so many walks of life, I feel, is what really shapes the game of soccer and what makes it what it is and why it's so big and so global and so exciting is the fact that it's so many people from so many walks of life, and it allows us to live life knowing that we know something from another place in the world without ever going. And I think that's such a beautiful part of the game. And I guess from your perspective, Marco, I mean, you're dealing with this on a daily basis on the sales side and the premium sales. Are you seeing a lot of traction from people from other countries? Are you seeing it more here in the United States? Like, what are you seeing?
Naturally, because of where the tournament is taking place, Canada, USA, Mexico is a large percentage of the conversations I'm having. But I have had, I mean, every continent of the world I have talked to people with already. I'm talking to people in Nigeria. I'm talking to people in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Japan, China. This is just off the top of my head. Spain, France, Germany, Brazil, Argentina. Um, Puerto Rico. Where else? I had a conversation with a guy from Cuba, which is not a big place you would normally think of football or soccer as being like the staple there. But yeah, every continent in the world is interested in going to the World Cup. And I think that's a pretty standard expectation for the tournament.
Yeah, and a lot of these people are you mostly I guess when it comes to premium tickets, are you more so on the business corporate side, or can an everyday individual do the same thing?
Yeah, I think that I would say, and I should have been more prepared for this, but I would say there's probably three buckets of buyers that I'm talking to. Maybe four, but three. The companies, obviously, North America entertainment is a normal thing here. They do client entertainment in these kinds of mega events better than anywhere else in the world. Super high net worth individuals, of course, if you want to get the nicest down on the field type experience, there is that type of buyer that is attracted to something that is, historic, like the biggest World Cup in history. And then there's the fan that's just exacerbated by the lottery system and just curious about, hey, how can I get these tickets? I'm not going to miss the World Cup. I have to be there. What is that entry price point look like? And I think for some people, you know, it's a good fit because if you're going to look at spending $1,000 on your World Cup ticket anyways, you might as well sit in the lower level of the stadium and get 5 hours of food and beverage and as much as you can eat and drink. Because if you look at the resale marketplace, a lot of those higher demand matches are kind of looking at those same pricings now. And I know that a large number of people that I talk to come in as soon as that lottery window closes and they don't win the lottery and they just say, hey, I'm done with this gambling process. I want to get my World Cup tickets. I'm not going to wait for them to keep going up.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I love that there's the option, because I guess for a lot of people out there, they probably don't know that that option is there because of what they see on the internet, because of what comes through. You're like, oh, I got to go in the lottery. I have to join this thing. That's the only way I can make it. And then they're like, oh man, I don't get the tickets. I don't get the tickets. I have to wait and hope. So we know there's another avenue. Yes, it might cost a little bit more, but if this is a once in a lifetime experience, why not make it the best experience possible, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a generational thing too. I mean, if I want to take my dad to the semifinal in Atlanta, I want to take him to the first game because he took me to, sporting events when I was a little kid. I am willing to invest in that because I'm not someone that cares about going to the Super Bowl every year. I don't care about going to NFL games. The Braves won the World Series. Okay, I'm not going to go to any real Braves game. 81 games a year is too many for me. But when the World Cup comes around, and it hasn't been here for 30 years, I want to make sure that I have that memory with my dad for as long as I'm alive and while I have him here.
And the sales side of you is coming now, bringing the emotion, because now I'm feeling
And
that. Now I'm like, I need to take my dad, man. I
you
can't.
know, the again, there's the super corporate version of Marco that can talk about hopefully return on investment and whatever you're getting FaceTime with your clients, but the true spirit of the tournament for me is making memories with the people you care about. I know we talked about, Lucas, you going to that World Cup in 2014 in Brazil. The games were probably great. The goals were probably nice, but I'm sure you cherish the memories with Luis coming
Oh,
all the way across the world to spend time with you 10 million times more. You're never going to forget that. Like,
mm.
and I mean, what would you, and I don't want to get too salesy about this, but like, what would that real value for you be to have those memories for the rest of your life with the people that you want to make those memories with? Because it's one thing to just go to a game with someone, and it's another thing to have that unforgettable moment with your boys, like right here on this call, jumping up and down, high fiving in the fan zone, spilling beer on each other when the goal goes in and the final whistle blows. Like that's what I think most people should be aiming for.
Yeah, that's priceless. I mean, that's really why people are willing to sell their grandmas for these kind of tickets. You know what I mean? Like they're willing to put everything on the line for these moments. You know, that's the real fan base that we're going to see in the World Cup. That's where the tickets are going to go.
Hopefully, Abuela will be there too.
I know.
And that's really how I feel about it. You know, I'm okay with spending the money because I know what it was like. You know, I was very fortunate that I got to do this already once in my lifetime when a lot of people don't. And now that it's coming to our home country, and knowing that it's who knows, like, I doubt in our lifetime we're gonna see this again, you know, here, and who knows? Yeah, we don't, but the fact that we can make that memory, we can do something that, because you're right, those memories I have with Lucas in Brazil, you know what's crazy? The memories are like have nothing to do with the actual World Cup. You know, the memories have to do with the people, with the environment, the culture, us going and playing futsal in the morning, going and grabbing a bowl of acai, like going and spending time with his family, and then watching the games with all his friends, cooking out. Like those memories of just the environment and the culture and walking down the street, people are waving their flags and they're hitting the drums, they're cheering. Like that is what I remember more than anything, you know?
Yeah,
And
and you don't even remember the
I want to
prices you
say
paid
something
for it.
too, because
I don't remember. I didn't care. I don't remember one thing about a price.
Money comes and goes,
Exactly.
but those experiences will last for a lifetime. Like,
yeah, and that is absolutely true. And I'm gonna, sell against myself a little bit because I got too salesy. I didn't like it personally. Um, you know, I would never tell someone how to spend their money. I just had a daughter, a baby girl, and you know, there are things that are more important than soccer tickets. But be a part of the spirit of the World Cup. Go watch matches at the packed out bar because people meet their soulmates at these kinds of events. The amount of love and like energy that is going on just around the whole entire tournament. Like if you can be in the stadium, be in the stadium. But if you can't, be a part of the energy, be a part of the action, go to the fan zone, celebrate with the watch parties. Like there's going to be a million ways to enjoy the World Cup. You don't have to break the bank for it if it's not the right fit for you. But if you can, do not miss it because it's something that people will be talking about for a decade after this, and it's something that people are going to cherish. I mean, like what 2014 was how many years ago? 12 years ago? Anyway, you're not going to forget that for forever. And this is just another one, another feather you're going to put in your cap of more memories that you're going to have. Hopefully we can play some futsal and not, feel the back pain too much, but it is the kind of thing that you don't want to miss.
yeah, and it's funny you say that because a lot of people do find their soulmates during this tournament in different countries. And if you Google this is funny. If you Google this, it'll show that during that summer of the World Cup tournament are the most babies produced 9 months after that because of those wins. It is so funny that's that. But yeah, I mean, so
That's
much
awesome.
love is going around during that tournament.
That's awesome.
That's a good stat. I'm
That's a great.
I'm gonna
That's
have
a
to add
great.
that to my calls.
It's a great stat.
For boosted testosterone when their country wins, so that's where it comes from.
I love it.
And Marco, is there any I guess host city that you're seeing the most demand for right now?
I think that I have my own personal favorites. I was really blessed. I got to go to Monterrey this past weekend for the Legends match. That stadium in Mexico is just special because you get to see the mountains in the back, and like that city is really cool. That's the only stadium in the world where if you haven't seen it, go and look it up. You can see actually in the stadium the mountain ranges in the back. It's so cool. I think Atlanta, I'm born and raised here, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think Mercedes-Benz Stadium and Atlanta Stadium for this tournament is special because of Halo board. The roof opens and closes. Like you've been in there before. I think it's very unique and they put on an amazing show. But I would say demand is more based around matches. So things like the inaugural match in Mexico City, obviously the culture in all of Mexico is just jumped on every single one of the games in all three of the different cities there, Guadalajara, Mexico City, and Monterrey. But the last game of the tournament, the final, everybody wants to go to the final. There's Miami has really good games in the group stage too. I think Boston has some that people sleep on. Boston and New York have some really great games in the group stage, but I would say it's more matches than anything else because after the World Cup draw happens, there's a couple really big games. I mean, Uruguay, Spain is in Guadalajara. Colombia, Portugal sold out for us, or is no longer available for us after like the first weekend because that's in Miami. Ronaldo playing against Colombia, probably going to decide first place for that group. I think the game that, if I had to pick one game that is going to be the most fun of the entire tournament, is actually the week before that Colombia Portugal game. Um, Scotland plays Brazil in Miami, and I think that's going to be the biggest party of the entire tournament because Scotland's happy to be there. I don't know if they expect to beat Brazil or not, but those people love to party. Brazil puts on a show every time they're playing, and I think they're going to be in good spirits. And you couldn't pick a better setting than Miami for that kind of a matchup. Both of those fan bases know how to throw down, and like I don't think there's any bad blood between any Scottish people or Brazilians.
I love
I
that.
don't think
It's
so.
so funny you said that because when I when I was bidding on my tickets, and finding certain games, so, I was looking at them, and obviously the number one that I was focused on was Mexico, South Africa, that first game. Then it was, Spain versus Cape Verde in Atlanta because it's, only 4 hours from me here. But the other game that I bid for was Brazil, Scotland because I don't know, I just had a feeling. I was just like, "You know what? It's in Miami. I lived in Miami for a little while, so I know people that down there. I have an uncle that lives right there in Weston, and let me just throw it in. Let's see what happens. So, hey, if I get those tickets, I'm gonna be revisiting this episode, saying, "Hey, let's see how it came out."
Right
Um,
on.
and look, what you said about
I'm
Brazil.
gonna, yeah, after you finish that, I do want to turn it, uh, kind of switch the subject here based on the ticket sales and stuff. So go ahead, Elise.
No, I was gonna just bring one more thing with yeah, with the tickets and everything because this week in the news or this past week in the news there were claims that fans were boycotting. Is that what you're gonna bring up,
Yep,
Jay?
that's where I was
Go
going.
ahead. You bring it up. You bring it up.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, we now to get a little bit on the darker side, we've been hearing these rumors, right? Okay, with Trump banning these countries and the visas and all of that, and fans boycotting, and everything. I know a lot of people have bought their tickets already and canceled those tickets. So, have you seen a drop in sales because of the political chaos that's going on right now?
I am not an expert on the visa process, and I, candidly have not heard too much about people canceling their tickets. I know that this is the highest demand World Cup ever. I might get one angry email every once in a while because of the prices more than anything else, of just people who went to tons of past World Cups, not expecting the price to be what it is. But I would say 90% of my emails are people super excited about the tournament and looking forward to it more than anything else now. Um, so no, I mean, I know I'm sure there's going to be people upset about any event that you have in any one of these different sporting events. Like the same thing happens with the Super Bowl every single year. I think that the current climate of the world might have something to do with that as well. And like the temperature of, the tournament is still very much positive. We are going to put on the biggest show that people have ever seen.
Okay. So you haven't heard anything, or at least not now, because I mean it's not for sure, but Trump is banning 75 countries for the World Cup. So it's like, and a lot of those countries are going to be playing, right? I mean, so I'm sure you're probably not going to hear now, but maybe down the road. I don't know what your thoughts are are on that.
Yeah, if that is, if that does happen, if that is the case, that's a shame. I don't get too political about anything, but I think the World Cup should be, about the fans and people enjoying the moment and connecting with people. I think that's such an important part of the tournament. Um, I do know that there is an expedited kind of visa appointment process if you do have World Cup tickets. So I think that is a good gesture that has happened through this whole entire, I don't know, like 2 years or a year and a half that I've been on this project so far. again, I don't really know too much about who is being limited, but I haven't heard very much on my end. But again, I am kind of more skewed on the hospitality side, so I wonder if that has more to do with it than anything else.
Yeah,
It's my speculation.
and I'm sure with, when I was looking at the numbers, because yeah, with I believe of the 75 countries that were banned, 15 of those countries are World Cup qualified countries, and it brings concern, I guess, for sure for those people, right? But it looks like it was about 17,000 tickets were canceled. Uh,
Okay.
what is that in comparison to what you've
I
heard
was
as
I was
how?
gonna say, if it was like 17,000 is not a small number, by any means. But I can say that, the announcement just came out. There are 500 million people that bid for World Cup tickets. I'm sure that those 17,000 tickets will find a home. I don't expect that there's going to be empty seats because of people who decided to cancel their tickets. Now, I really hope that they get to go, because if they pay for those things and they wanted to go to the World Cup, I really want them to have that dream and that memory. I mean, we just talked about it. It's going to be amazing. But that I haven't looked into it too much. You made it sound like it was like half of the people are not going to the World Cup anymore, and oof, that'd have been a bigger issue for Marco.
Yeah, no, and for me, when I look at it, I almost think it is. I'm like, okay, well, great. That's 17,000 more shots I have in my ticket.
Yeah,
Like, hey, I'm okay with it. But with that, do you see this getting to a point where we talked about it before? People buying all these tickets and then reselling, the resell process, because let's say we get that. Is that process of reselling? Because I also heard in Mexico you can only exchange, you can't resell. Is that like?
oh, I am not. I'm on the hospitality side of things,
Yeah.
and the price point is prohibitive. So to keep people from reselling them for a whole lot, and it protects fans from price gouging. Um, I don't know the specifics on Mexico, and if they can just exchange. I would kind of be surprised to me, because FIFA's marketplace exists and you can purchase Mexican matches right now on the marketplace. So just by speculating as a fan, I don't think that that's the case, because anything that's on there is people who are reselling from the lottery system. Now it's as simple as just going into your FIFA account and relisting it for the price that you want to. And um, the specific seats haven't been assigned yet, so I'm pretty sure it's all being done by category. But again, I am not a part of that lottery system process, or the marketplace as much. That's
Okay.
just me speculating as a fan.
So let me ask you, as you're talking with companies and with people with these tickets, is there anything that fans coming to the World Cup should prioritize first when it comes to flights, hotel, their tickets? Like, because a lot of people are buying ahead of time without even having tickets. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
what you've seen.
well, I think, and this is just Marco logically thinking about things. Anywhere there is a fixed amount of something, I would prioritize that. They can't make more seats in the stadium. They can't make more hotel rooms in the hotel. There can be more flights in the future. If there's enough demand for a flight, they will just schedule more flights, I would assume. So I would prioritize the things that are finite if I was going on that journey. I would also prioritize looking who I know in the cities and seeing if I could crash on their couches, because that'll save you a whole lot, and maybe you can go to another match or two. And again, those go down to the memories. But um, my list of priorities would probably be tickets, because those will change in price more, I would expect. I mean, I know as there's less and less, the prices go up. And then hotels as well, because for the exact same reason, if all of the hotels are booked in New York, Airbnbs are going to be crazy. If you can get ahead of that, do it as soon as possible.
And speaking, let's take away Marco, FIFA Marco, sales Marco for a second. As a fan of the game, what are you most excited for in this 2026 World Cup?
Man, Okay, I'll give us two answers. The first, I am most excited to see in 10 years or 5 years the talent that comes into international soccer from the US. Because if we do this thing right, we're going to get some crazy athletes that never would have gone down the soccer path before. They're going to catch the fever because that's exactly how it happens. We have this amazing. We, my problem with the dog and pony show this soccer program is we have all of the resources, we have all of the tools and the money to build the most badass US soccer team that would just destroy all of these other, countries because of the amount of resources we have. If we can harness that power and catch some of those, you know, super athletes, but the ones that are disciplined enough to go to professional and all of these other leagues like, NBA, the NFL, it's not just that they're amazing athletes, they have the drive, the discipline to put together the machine. If we can get some of those and convert them into soccer players and also catch the actual cultural phenomenon of the education of how to play the game properly and be exposed to seeing all different styles to craft the US style because it's going to be different as it should be. I am super excited to see that piece. Now, if we're just talking about the 2026 World Cup, I am excited to see how many people are going to be blown away by the stadiums that we have here that don't exist anywhere else in the world. Because the Bernabeu is amazing, Camp Nou is amazing. Those stadiums have been around for 100 years. Old Trafford's 100 years old. Mercedes-Benz Stadium's opened up in a decade ago, just about. SoFi's brand new. People are going to come here and say, "Oh my God, this is incredible! This is the most technology I've seen. The run of show is so smooth and clean." And like, I think that is going to be jaw dropping for people in the world, and they're going to have a completely different view on how we do things here in the U.S. And I'm really pumped for that too.
Dude, I love that, man. You just like you got me chills.
I'm
You know,
pumped.
I'm
Yeah.
we're pumped, man. We're excited, and we're such fanatics. And look, I'm a sports guy in general, and it doesn't matter if it's football, if it's soccer, if it's basketball. I went to the first game that the Falcons played at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in 2017. I still have the hat of the inaugural game at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I held on to it because I'm like, hey, maybe one day this thing's gonna be valuable. I don't know, but for me, it's like I wouldn't even sell it anyways because that was my experience. I remember the first year that Atlanta United had their team and just, a
And
year
one.
after winning it. I know what it is now to be when Miami brought Messi. I was living in Miami when they brought Messi over and seeing him at a Publix was the weirdest thing ever. I remember now here in Charlotte seeing the fan base grow in Charlotte and being, to have a team to call home because it's just seeing it grow in the United States. It's one of the most exciting things. And I know for us, especially because we grew up, we're all, around the same age, of course. And, we grew up in a time where it was not as popular as it is now. We grew up in a time where we felt like we were going against the grain. We grew up in a time where it was weird. For a lot of people, they would look at us in a certain way and say, almost the thought of it's not a real sport. Now we're seeing that change and we're seeing how, the influence of Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey and Michael Bradley and these players who have found themselves playing in other leagues or even in the MLS, but having a big name for themselves. And now the Weston McKennies, the Christian Pulisic's, the Tim Weahs, we're starting to see these kids that they got the fever before. It's still not at the level we want, but this time around, like you said, this time around, if it catches the way it catches, it does what it needs to do. Not only are we going to enjoy this at a level that we've never enjoyed it before, we're going to see how this transitions, American soccer for the future. Right?
I think that one thing that you just mentioned that I love, and I think it's worth pointing out, all of these amazing talents are abroad right now, studying the game, getting all of the knowledge, and they're going to bring it back home one day. And if this wildfire catches here, and those guys who have gone and fought for their place in the football world are able to help cultivate that and train and be the next generation of coaches, you know, there's really nothing that's going to stop us. So yeah, I love that.
It's and look, man, I know we're going along on time here, but again, we get passionate, we get excited. Um, and Jay, I don't know if there's anything else that you have for Marco that you want to bring up. Any other questions?
Really, we had a good time talking about some topics, his job, FIFA, the tickets, his take as a fan, the transition. I think most importantly for our viewers now is, hey, if you're looking for World Cup tickets too, in any class, any stadium, any country, we'll leave Marco's contact information too. He'll be your main guy. You saw it here on the show. He's a genuine guy that actually played the sport professionally. Club wise too. He's very knowledgeable in the subject, and he's working for the biggest company in FIFA, so he can hook you up with the right tickets, and he's not here to just sell you. Right? Again, he wants to show you the experience. He wants you to experience that. So that's huge. You don't just want a shark that just sells you tickets. Like, he'll give you the full genuine scope of it all. So yeah, I mean, I think this was great.
And look, to end it all here, Marco, to the person who's never gone to a World Cup, to the person who's never gone to an international game, to somebody who's never experienced something like this, but it's in their backyard and they have the opportunity, why should they take advantage and watch it?
If you've ever been curious, ever even had that tiny itch of why are so many people absolutely nuts about this sport, this is the easiest moment to find out. And it hasn't been here for 30 years. I don't know if it will come back in our lifetime. So if you've ever had that slight curiosity of why are these fanatics all over the world stopping everything they're doing, watching games at ridiculous hours of the day, why do so many people just won't shut up about soccer? This is the moment to just go peek behind the curtain, and I hope you will.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, Marco, we appreciate you jumping on with us. It's been a pleasure getting to know you deeper. It's been great to have you as part of the 90th Minute Hooligans. You will forever have a badge with the 90th Minute Hooligans. You will always be invited to jump on the show, but we really, really do appreciate you. Thank you for joining us
My
today, man.
boy.
Hey, it's a great honor to be the first guest here, and I'm sorry for taking us to stoppage time. But yeah, thank you guys for what you're doing, because at the core of me, it is about spreading the gospel of the beautiful game.
Thank you
Lucas,
so
thanks
much.
for joining in last minute too.
Yeah, I don't know.
He went back to Jamaica.
I know. I'm traveling to Jamaica every time.
So for all you viewers at home, once again, we appreciate you guys joining us for Touchline Talks here with the 90th Minute Hooligans and Marco. Till we see you guys again for some more culture, chaos, and soccer. We are the 90th Minute Hooligans, and we'll see you guys next week.
See.
Touchline talks. No tactics. No filters. Just soccer and some hooligans.